1 in 5 Americans have had a mental disability, and 1 in 6 children aged 3 to 17 years have had one or more developmental disability. Mental disabilities are disabilities like depression and schizophrenia, while developmental disabilities are disabilities like autism. There are more than 200 classified mental disabilities. Half of all mental disabilities appear before you are 14 years old, and 3/4 of mental disabilities start before the age of 24. However, less than 20% of children and 44% of adults diagnosed with a mental disorder receive the help they need. Many people do not seek support help for mental health issues or addictions because of the fear of being discriminated. About 1 in 4 adults do suffer from some kind of mental disability. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, depression is one of the most common mental disorders in the U.S. 10.7% of 12 to 18-year-olds and 6.7% of adults 18 or older have suffered from at least one major depressive episode in the last year. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States, and this is caused by mental disabilities such as bipolar disease and major depression. According to Therapy 2000, there are 4 main types of developmental disabilities: nervous system disabilities, sensory-related disabilities, metabolic disabilities, and degenerative disorders. 3.5 million Americans have had an autism spectrum disorder, which makes this the fastest-growing mental health disability. About 6,000 babies born in the U.S. are diagnosed with Down syndrome every year. This makes Down syndrome the most common genetic condition. According to the Mental Health Foundation, people with mental disorders are the least likely of any group with long-term health conditions to find work, maintain a long-term relationship, live in decent housing, and be socially included in mainstream society. People with mental disabilities are also more likely to be a victim of a crime than the perpetrator because even though most people think of them to be violent, only 3 to 5% are. Many people fear sharing their mental disability with others because of stereotypes like this.
So as a social worker, my job is to basically eliminate any obstacles that students have that get in the way of their education. So it could be anything from breakups to depression, anxiety, ADHD, autism, even something as extreme as psychosis. A lot of students who, let's say, have depression, it could be really hard to get out of bed in the morning, to have any motivation to complete your schoolwork. We have some students who have such extreme anxiety that it makes it even hard for them to sit in the classroom. And then for our developmentally disabled students, like kids with autism, it could be really hard socially. Hard to make friends, hard to keep friends, things like that. So there's a couple of things that we can do in the less severe cases, like kids with depression, anxiety. I provide therapy. We also have like 4 organizations that come in here and provide therapy here on campus. For the more extreme cases, we can do like a 504 plan, which is basically like a legal document that gives kids special modifications, accommodations for the education, like if they need extra time to get tests done, if they need a special pass that lets them leave the classroom when they're feeling overwhelmed, things like that. So there's a lot of different ways. We also have a couple special programs in the district that if it's too hard to manage your disability here at this campus, there's special schools that have a little bit extra support. So depending on what disability it is, everyday life can just feel extremely overwhelming. So if you have a test and that's already stressful, plus on top of that you have anxiety, which might make it kind of scary to either leave your house or be away from your family or your friends, that could kind of exacerbate the condition and make everything really hard. So on top of worrying about the regular stuff that people worry about, like grades in college, you also have to worry about, all these feelings that you're feeling inside. So I think a lot of times, like especially coming to the Student Family Center, people think that people with a mental condition are crazy, which isn't the case. About 20% of adolescents between the ages of 12 and 17 have some sort of mental illness. So it's very likely that everybody here has somebody that's a friend or family that suffered from this condition. So I guess one of the misconceptions is that they're I guess, like I said, they're crazy. Or another misconception is that it's something that you have forever. And something like depression or anxiety is extremely treatable. So there's a lot of kind of things that we could do, whether it's, medication or therapy that can help help make this condition easier. And then when we're talking about developmental disabilities, kids with autism, there's misconceptions that maybe they don't have feelings because they don't display them the same way that maybe you or I do. So there's a misconception that maybe they don't care, they don't want friends, but a lot of time they actually do. They just don't know how to communicate that the way that we do. Most mental disabilities, they're not outward, so we can't really see them. So the chances are you are interacting with people like that every day and you don't know it. In the more extreme cases, I would suggest, instead of being judgmental, maybe ask questions. People are more comfortable with you asking questions than they are with you kind of whispering about them behind their backs. So I guess that would be what I would suggest. My last suggestion would be that if you have any friends or family members that you feel may have a condition that they're suffering from, one, not to try to do therapy on your own, but refer them to somebody professional and just remain really supportive. Here on campus, you can refer friends here to the Student Family Center. Your teachers know how to do that, and they can get in touch with us, and we'll touch base with your friends. So I would just say stay open-minded. I think it's great that you're learning about this so that you know that, it doesn't mean anybody's crazy, that everybody's normal, and that we could interact just the way that you and I interact, regardless of what condition somebody has.